Hello and welcome to this very special edition of Contact Center Showcase, Lessons from the Lockdown. And my guest this afternoon, Henriette Potgieter, a well-established, well-seasoned consultant in the customer service, call center, contact center industry here in South Africa, and very involved at the moment with handling clients on a consulting basis during the lockdown. So, Henriette, before we start into what's happening in the lockdown, would you just expand a little bit on the work that you've been doing in the past, and particular emphasis on your area of expertise, which I believe is the COPC standard. So a little bit of background to the work you've been doing, please.
Excellent. Thank you, Rod. Thanks. Like you've mentioned, currently working in consulting. Pretty much my whole career has been in call center. I've worked from captives into all the various areas, all the various industries within call center and all the various roles. I have specialized, and you've mentioned it, into COPC, which is a best practice framework. It's an internationally recognized best practice framework that you use to measure and have standards and protocols and processes within your area or your call center to ensure success. So I've very much used that.
Just stop on that point there.
Perfect.
I think I'd like to revisit that perhaps in another Contact Center Showcase interview,
Okay.
where we can expand on the COPC, because I'd be very interested in getting some of your perspectives and sharing that with some of our viewers. Back to you.
Okay. Excellent. So in a consulting space, what I've been very much working in, and I always say as a consultant, you plug a gap. Your client needs something, you come in and you plug the gap. But I've very much been plugging those gaps into looking how they are doing various processes. What can they do to make it better, have better agent efficiency, better sales, better customer service. Also very much involved in the coaching space. Leadership, team leader development, that connect, making sure that your people engagement and development is still happening. So yes, very much consulting within those spaces. Quality business intelligence, call center and coaching.
Wonderful. And then 4 weeks ago, along comes COVID-19, the rapid deployment of agents into remote environments, a total change in our industry's operating environment. I think first off, your observations, particularly over the last 3 to 4 weeks, looking specifically at the remote agent, the disciplines, how do we drive KPIs, how do we drive quality and compliance. I mean, as a consultant, that must be a nightmare space, but very quick overview from your point of view. And specifically, what have you learned that you'd be happy to share with the industry?
I think if we have to start 4 weeks ago, time is flying. I don't even know if it's 4 or 3 weeks, but 4 weeks ago when they announced the lockdown, I've said it in so many discussions with people, but it was a complete scramble. It's almost as if people were not ready, but now we had to get ready. So it was moving people, getting them off. Big issues around IT. I think a big thing that everybody now realizes is that our connectivity within the country is not where it needs to be.
Very good.
So that's the biggest issue where we are sitting with how do we work around that. Outside of that, once people settled down and they were now within the spaces where they had to work, started thinking about the back office supporting processes, the QAs came along. We now started doing QA. What we've seen is with this big disconnect with not being on the floor with your people, there's so much intelligence that we are missing. You can't listen to each and every call. You can't be there when everything is happening. So we need to find a way to get closer to what our customers are saying. So we need to relook how are we doing QA. Similarly, so what we are picking up is challenges with engagement with staff. Some people are not made to sit alone behind a PC the whole day. So how do you keep them connected? How do you keep them busy? There's a lot of idle time right now. Volumes have dropped. What do we do? Because there's not connectivity. They can't get into Zoom meetings or shared meetings for training. So we need to think more cleverly of what do we do. So that's pretty much my observations is we need to be more creative with what we are doing. And we need to find other ways other than what we are used to do and used to measure.
How are you finding that agents, and I'm sure there are going to be differences, but are acclimatizing to the remote work from home environment? from a point of view of schedule adherence, discipline, working in a home environment with dogs and children in the background. What's your observation or experience of what's happening out there?
For me, and I won't say the most surprising, but the best or the loveliest observation is I have seen more happiness, positivity from agents. We've seen with two of my clients that absenteeism in certain areas have reduced. People are there, they're logging on, they are engaged, they want to work. Adherence is something, one of the metrics we need to reconsider. Definitely it is looking different. People are sitting at home, they need to get up, they will make coffee, they need to attend to certain things. So that's maybe where we need to focus a bit more. In certain areas, very interestingly enough, and I think it comes to your workforce and the people, do you have the right people working for you? Because we've also seen in certain areas where people have gone AWOL after Easter. I've always said, how do you go AWOL if you are at home? Where did you go? Why? So it definitely also points, and I think what organizations need to consider now is if you have a person working from home who's got everything set up that they need to do, and they are not even logging on, there's some reconsiderations to think what is the reasoning and motivation behind. So overall, in summary, less absenteeism seen, more engagement from staff, but there are those instances where they are.
Excellent. Let's look forward a little bit beyond the lockdown itself, which no doubt will be a slow transition back into activating the economy again. I'm hearing that a lot of operators are more than likely going to leave a huge number of the agents working from home. Is this the new model going forward that you're envisaging with your clients?
I would certainly hope so. I would certainly advocate that. I would recommend it. I think for me, the answer lies within a blended environment or a mixed environment. There's definitely still merit behind having an office space, having people to be able to connect. Also the logistics behind setting up new campaigns, new projects, having new agents once they get trained. I think the answer for me lies in perhaps your more junior agents working from the office, and as they then graduate and upskill, as part of also your people engagement plan, they start moving off-site and into the home. Definitely there's less traffic, there's less stress, there's even cost-wise, not just for the employee, but also for the organization. You cut down on so many other overheads when you've got people working from home. Plus it ups your people engagement. So definitely I would hope that is the new normal.
Well, that's an interesting point. And just while you were saying that, I had a thought. I'd be interested in your views on how perhaps recruitment will change going forward. Are we looking for a different type of person to work in a home-based environment? What are your views on that?
I definitely think so. I think the drivers for home-based agents, if you recruit them from the start, need to be self-disciplined, they need to be self-motivated, they need to be quick to learn the concept. It's very difficult if you don't have a person sitting in a classroom for 15 days. So that would definitely become more of the things that we look towards. I think that's why I'm also suggesting more of a blended environment, because I think reality in our country is that not everybody has had the opportunity to grasp concepts very quickly. So there would be a stage of phasing in and teaching in a classroom. Then if you can move the identified ones into working from home.
Excellent. Lastly, coming up 3 weeks into the lockdown now. What are the 2 or 3 takeaways, the lessons that you can share with other operators, other consultants that you've encountered over the last couple of weeks? Just a quick high level on that before we wrap up.
Perfect. I think I've mentioned it a bit earlier, is we need to be more creative, we need to think out of the box. And I've mentioned COPC and best practice and standards. But if we consider a simple example such as a service level, right now is not the time to be hung up on a 80% service level because that's what our service level is. We need to consider all the circumstances. We need to be more flexible, much more flexibility. We need to check in with our staff, whether they are okay and where they are at. And we need to find creative ways to keep them busy. There's so many ways. So we need to embrace technology. Have YouTube training videos, have platforms where they can learn, do all those things. So use technology to make the world smaller for them, bring them in, and don't be stuck in the stringent or rigid ways of how we used to do things when we were still in the office.
Okay. Because the new future is going to be very different.
Yes.
Henriette, thank you so much for that, and we wish you well going forward as a consultant and helping other operators to transition into the new tomorrow. So once again, thank you very much from us, and have a good evening.
Thank you, Rod. I appreciate that.